Welcome to Trailblaze, where I introduce you to some of the innovators and game changers that you should know. Over the past 2 decades as a founder, investor, and host, I've had the privilege of meeting incredible individuals that are having a positive impact on the world. Join me as I sit with these leaders and innovators that are trailblazing their own path as they share their stories of the resilience built and the wisdom gained along the way. Enjoy the episode. Chris, incredible journey that you've had, and it's been pretty well covered, but I'm hoping today to talk about some things maybe that are not usual topics for you.
Sure.
Right? You have had an incredible journey in a relationship with fear that is completely fascinating. And you've spoken a lot about how you've channeled your fear into motivation. But inside, what is really your relationship with it? And how do you go in and prepare yourself to experience fear and take it in and be able to turn it into something very constructive?
Yeah, I don't like being afraid. To me, that's just another way of saying I'm really stressed, where I feel like helpless or out of control, or I'm not ready for something that's about to happen. To me, that's what fear is. You are not ready for something that you're imagining is, walking in a dark night through a creaky house.
And you're just anticipating, but you don't know what is.
You don't know what's coming,
Yeah.
but you have this gut feel that you're not ready for it. Or you're about to fly a rocket ship to space. I mean, that could make you very fearful. But I don't like being afraid. I don't like having a big stress-filled kind of life. I want to have as much deflation of stress as I can get, but I want to do really interesting, exciting things with my life. I don't want to spend my life just hiding from the things that I want to do that also by nature have a high level of risk. So how do you reconcile that, right? If you never want to be afraid and stressed, but you want to do things that are dangerous. And I was a combat fighter pilot, with a fully armed airplane intercepting fully armed Soviet airplanes in the Cold War. I was a test pilot where you take an airplane up and do something that nobody has ever done with this airplane before, including, an out of control program in the F-18. And I flew 3 rocket ships and commanded a space station and did spacewalks. Those are all intensely dangerous things.
And would seemingly be very scary things to do.
I think if you just plucked anybody off the street, self included, and said, okay, you're now flying an F-18 into combat, naturally you'd be terrified and stressed. So what I learned, I sort of realized and then tried to progressively learn better and better throughout my life, is how to get ready for the things that have a high level of danger and risk that you have decided you want to do in your life.
Okay.
And I am not a thrill seeker at all. I think there's this weird Hollywood sort of portrayal of test pilots and astronauts that were like adrenaline junkies.
I mean, you have to say, Chris, when someone hears your resume and you just recited it, it would seem like you are the ultimate thrill seeker.
We're just we're doing it and we're all going, That's not how it is at all. I do not want adrenaline in my veins, because if the last thing that I've got going for me is a little injection of chemical into my blood that can barely help me keep up with what's going on, then I've already blown it.
Right.
Like that's not going to help me. Adrenaline might be good for running away from a saber-toothed tiger, but it's not going to help me fly an F-18 or a spaceship. So what I decided a long time ago, and that I've worked on for my whole life, is choose the risk that you want to take in life. Or recognize the risks that are there. What are the dangers that actually exist in your life? And then accept the fact that, okay, these are the dangers that I either have to accept or that I'm going to add to my life. Like if you're going to drive in a car, it's dangerous. A 2-ton vehicle going 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's dangerous, But so some things, these are just the dangers that exist in my life. Identify them, and then, rather than just be afraid of them, dig into the actual danger itself, and then try and figure out, how can I make myself ready for the reality of this danger? Don't just have this sort of unspoken gray fear of something bad going on, because there's no way to resolve that. I think it's important to separate the fear from the danger. They're not the same thing. They're not
Okay, interesting.
synonyms. And a lot of people say, wow, flying a rocket ship must be, rocket ships are scary. Rocket ships aren't scary. People are scared. Rocket ships are dangerous.
Okay.
But the word danger and fear, that's not a synonym.
Right.
And so dig into the actual risk, the actual danger. And then once you've decided, this is a thing I'm going to do, now your job is not to be afraid of it. Your job is not to fret about it or just get all tensed up. Your job is to truly understand the danger and then do everything you can to make sure that the danger doesn't turn into harm. Just because it's dangerous doesn't mean it has to go badly. And so I decided when I was a kid, I want to fly in space, dangerous as can be. But then I spent 26 years separating the fear from the danger and turning myself into somebody who could understand what to do when things go wrong with a rocket ship. So that then when I climbed into the space shuttle Atlantis for the very first time, I knew I was about to do an intensely dangerous and demanding thing, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready.
Right.
And I would much rather be ready than afraid. And you can apply that to everything in your life if you just take the time to think about separating those two ideas.
Well, Chris, people that are in business, that are trying to build business and thinking about the decisions they need to make, those two things, fear and danger, conflate all the time.
Sure.
And I'll just speak from my own experience as a founder. So many times I was afraid of the decision I was making was going to cause me some harm. You're dealing with life and death related things, but this was really for me, in many ways, life or death. My business lives or dies, or is successful or is not successful. How does a young founder separate these things? Was there something prescriptive that you did that every step of the way allowed you to maintain that rational, calm approach to it?
I'm currently working with a CEO who is doing a masterful job of that. It's a company that is recently founded, a lot of responsibility, a bunch of employees, a bunch of other people's money, and trying to turn it into a viable business. And I have been really learning from and admiring the way it's a man, the way that he is dealing with the difference between fear and danger. Things constantly are going wrong. Right. Because it's a new business and new technologies and stuff is constantly going wrong. But what he does is work on the homework in advance. So he understands the stuff that can probably go wrong, knows all the variables that are in play, really does the research so that he's not just caught flat-footed all the time like, I never thought that could happen. Right. If you as a CEO find yourself, or as a founder, find yourself saying, I never thought that could happen, then that should be an indicator to yourself that you didn't do your homework.
You were not prepared.
You were not. You decided you didn't need to get prepared.
Right. So maybe you should be afraid.
So, then all you got left now is your animal reaction to something that you didn't get ready for.
You hope adrenaline saves you.
And there's always more time than you think. What are you actually doing with your time? And if you find yourself as the founder or the CEO, if you find yourself way down in the weeds on some issue that someone else could be doing, that some other employee, it's part of their job that they should be doing, then you need to recognize that I am not getting ready for the actual things that I need to be doing as the founder. I need to delegate. I need to trust somebody else to do this thing while I actually take myself back and get ready for the big stuff and do my homework. And then when the bad things happen, and I've been watching this CEO recently doing, his name's John, watching John do these things, I am constantly impressed by how he has a plan, he knows what he expects to happen, and then stuff goes wrong, and he gathers all the information, and then he galvanizes a new plan based on the new changing circumstances. And he doesn't go into the remorse and the recrimination and the blame. I mean, obviously, if there was something that went wrong because of somebody's action or someone's oversight, then we can improve that part of the business. But you can spend your whole time in this whiplash of looking backwards and reacting to things that went wrong. Or you can say, this is our new status. These are the things we know. These are the options and the freedoms that we have. And now we have to figure out a way collectively to move forward. And let's not get all upset about it. This is just the reality of the business we're in. If we didn't want to have these risks in pursuit of big rewards, then we all should have chosen a different profession. But let's be professional. This is what we're doing. And we are going to work every single day to make this successful. And so that doing the homework in advance, figuring out what's going wrong as it's happening, and then setting a normal based on where you are, and then moving forward from that. To me, that is the only way to deal with all of the pressures, and not just getting into the blame and wishing and reactionary mode that you can drop into.
Well, and you said that you built that capability over 26 years, right? To be prepared to come into a situation.
Oh, wait. That was 26 years from when I chose to be an astronaut to the day I was selected. And then I worked as an astronaut for 21 years, refining that exact same process. So whatever that is, 47 years.
47 years, right. And do you think that there are any key lessons along the way there that somebody can use to map into their business life prescriptively? Is there something in Chris Hadfield today that's, here's the 3 things that I consistently did well?
So number one is a constant goal focus. And that may sound trivial, but what I mean is, what does success look like? What is an actual victory today? You know, we're going to do this thing for this amount of time coming up right now. Like, we're all going to work hard for the next 3 hours on this thing. What does victory look like?
Okay.
So, and make sure that you've got clear in your mind what the objective is of the thing that you're doing.
And the team knows.
Yes, and the team needs to know. And they don't just need to know, but they need to buy into the recognition, hey, this is what we are trying to accomplish today. Yeah. This is what victory is. Because almost every decision that your team members make, they will make independent of consulting you. So if they have a different definition of success than you do, then the chances of everybody pulling in the same direction are decreased. Yeah, so at the start of it all going, you know, let's take a simple example. You know, we smell smoke. Okay, team, we smell smoke. There shouldn't be the smell of smoke. Okay, our objective in the next 5 minutes is to find the source of the smoke. Once we figured out the source of the smoke, then we're going to set a new set of objectives. But right now, we need to find the source of the smoke. Everybody in the team, it's clear. People are now going to start doing actions so that they know that. And then as soon as we see the source of the smoke, okay, new set of objectives, team. This is what we got to get done. And sometimes it's more subtle than that, but it's essentially the same decision-making process. The second step is technical and mission competence. Like, are you ready for the things that are going to be happening in order to accomplish what it is that you're trying to be victorious at?
Yeah.
So, you know, we just said it was 47 years that I worked on being a successful astronaut. I was only in space for 6 months. So I spent 46 years and 6 months getting ready for 6 months of performance. And getting ready doesn't mean, you know, sitting around waiting. It means studying and anticipating and simulating and going over it over again. And you're not simulating success. The only thing really we're simulating is failure. What are we going to do when this fails? What are we going to do when whatever, all these external factors that we can't control suddenly affect what we're trying to accomplish as our objective? And so that absolute relentless focus on self-improvement. If there is one distinguishing characteristic of an astronaut, it is a perpetual desire of betterment. And knowing that you can never be 100% ready, but you just have to be ready enough.
Self-betterment. So there's humility in that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're never good enough.
As accomplished as you are, you're still maintaining humility. And I see it in you in my interactions with you every time I interact with you.
Yeah.
There's got to be something in that. You have maintained humility. You're so massively decorated. You're a full-blown celebrity. You're a published best-selling author. I mean, I could keep going on, right? Commanders, right? Like, it's a big list. You have always been so incredibly humble. When there's something new you want to learn, you take it up and you learn it. So there's something in humility in that keeps your mind. Is it that your mind stays open? Is that you wake up saying, I'm going to improve myself today?
I think it's the recognition that there are far more things that I don't know than that I do know. And I'm really curious about all those things that I don't understand yet, or I haven't had time to dig into. And I try and get as good as I can at the stuff that I think I do know. But even that takes maintenance. And that's why we have the Olympic Games every 4 years. The same people don't always win,
Right.
you know? That's why we have national team hockey finals and football finals and stuff, because even if you're the best in the world at something right now, give it 3 months, give it 6 months.
Right.
So even the stuff that you're really good at takes maintenance. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm not good at yet that I'm really interested in. I want to know how all these things work. And so
there's a curiosity element also.
You need that pull. You need to have a definition of what victory looks like, right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing all these things? And what am I trying to achieve? And then the education and the thing that you have the most dominion over always is yourself. What am I going to do in the next 5 minutes? What am I doing this evening, and why am I doing it? And how am I trying to better myself to accomplish the things that are important to me? And that mostly means preparation. I spend my life getting prepared for the things that I really want to understand and be good at enough that they will allow the things in my life to happen that I want to happen.
Right.
You know, that's how I conduct my life. And then you need to include your team in that. You need to be giving them the education and the freedom and the self-motivation to constantly be getting ready for the challenges that they're going to be facing. And then the third thing to me is celebration. My wife is setting out right now to do a 3 years master's degree. Imagine if she said, I am about to put my nose to the grindstone and I am going to work. And you know what? 3 years from now, I'm going to celebrate what happened. What a dismal 3 years she's setting herself up for. This is in fine arts and design and ceramics. But instead, she could say, for the next 3 years, I am going to work really, really hard. But every single day, I'm going to be creating, some of the stuff I'm going to create is going to be crap, you know, because I'm learning and I got to figure all this stuff out. And some of the stuff I'm going to create, it's going to be something that nobody else in the world has ever done before. And some of it's going to be pretty cool. And what you need to have the right mindset for is to drop your own threshold of where you can congratulate yourself and celebrate as low as you possibly can. Try and feel like you have succeeded as often as possible. Don't say, I'm going to slog it out for 3 years and then hopefully I'll get a good grade and then I can celebrate then. Instead, like, nobody else has to care, right?
Right.
And so with my crew on the space station, it's like, hey, everybody, it's Thursday. Everyone's been working hard. For supper tonight, let's all put on Hawaiian shirts and we're going to eat the dehydrated Hawaiian chicken and have the dehydrated mango juice tonight. And we're going to find some Don Ho recordings and we're going to have a luau tonight and celebrate just what a cool Thursday it's all been for everybody. And nobody else in the world has to care. But find the time to celebrate all of the tiny little victories that are happening and the little beautiful things that are happening along the way. Don't just get dragged down into all the headaches and the bad stuff that's happened, because this isn't the time that you are preparing for your life later on. This is your life.
This is your life
What's
right
happening
now.
right now. This is your life. And I come from dangerous professions. It has ended very abruptly for a lot of my friends. And they were expecting them in another 50 years.
Right.
And so don't just spend all your time celebrating and accomplishing nothing, because that's a dead end. But at the same time, celebrate as often as you can. So my 3 big points are: give yourself goals and have people understand what victory looks like. Use all the time available to improve your chances of succeeding by educating and studying and getting ready, and then celebrate every chance that you can.
Every chance that you get.
Each of your successes, and then just keep repeating.
Another element of your background and career has been, as you said, 47 years total, 46 and a half years waiting to do what you were going to do for 6 months.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people would, I guess that's 1 over 46. That's about 2% of people might say productive time, right? Not a lot of people stick with things. Along the way, I get that you were celebrating the little wins along the way, and I get that you were preparing the whole time, and I get that you were taking on things that you wanted to learn about and that you'd chosen to do, and you'd separated fear from danger and all of those things, right? But this is still just 2%. And it's also a long shot that you end up commanding the space station after all of that. Along the way, how do you keep going?
The first day that I walked into the Johnson Space Center, it was August the 3rd, and a hot summer's day in South Texas. And one of the reporters stuck a microphone in front of my face and said, "So, what do you expect is going to happen?" And I thought it was an interesting question because I'd been dreaming about it. I'd been trying to get qualified to be selected as an astronaut. And now suddenly it was like the door was open and I was walking through, and now somebody said, "What do you expect to happen?" And it made me think. But the answer that I gave was, well, I really hope that this leads to, when I look back at it from the other side, that I will leave here healthy, with a happy and healthy family.
Beautiful.
With a great satisfaction of having done a lot of things that really pushed and challenged me, and maybe 1 or 2 space flights underneath my belt.
Really, that was your answer?
That was my answer.
Yeah.
And because I hadn't really tried to formulate my own thoughts on it. It wasn't like, I've got to get a space flight and everything else is going to be sacrificed for this. It was, I am now embarking on a road that is giving me an opportunity to learn so much and to broaden and deepen a lot of my opportunities and my chances, but also to do some stuff that is right on the edge of my dreams of flying a spaceship and, you know, maybe doing a spacewalk and stuff. But if that's the only thing I get out of this, then essentially, I think fundamentally I will have failed in living the full life of what I want to achieve. And so in a more direct answer to your question, I knew right from the get-go that I needed to make a deliberate point of enjoying every phase of it. You know, I looked ahead and I saw that the Soviet Union had just come apart, you know, the fall of the Berlin Wall. And rather than having the Soviet space program just spread to some of the nations of the world, where it wouldn't be good historically to have these super senior space scientists and engineers go, they were immediately invited into the International Space Station program, try and keep it together financially until Russia could find its feet. And it's, you know, now it seems, you know, interesting, but 30 years ago, it was the right thing to do for sure. So I looked at that and I thought, I'm going to be flying with Russians here. Just a few short years ago, I was a combat fighter pilot intercepting Soviet bombers that were practicing launching cruise missiles on North America. But things change. And they're going to change again. But for now, if I'm truly going to do these things I'm dreaming of, I need to learn to speak Russian, because it's going to be a skill that is going to come in useful. It's going to help me communicate with these people that ostensibly used to be my enemy. Right. I'm going to, who knows, maybe fly a Russian spaceship someday or live in Russia or something. So I'm now at the start of this thing. So what is it that I need to start changing about myself to optimize my chances to succeed? Right. And so, okay, let's learn the Russian alphabet. A, B, V, G, D, E, Ё. And меня зовут Chris Hadfield, and сейчас я по-русски я говорю, you know? And so I studied Russian for the whole 20 years that I was an active astronaut. While on the 4 days before my stint as a space station commander ended, 4 days before, on my 3rd space flight, I'm commanding the world's spaceship. We had a serious emergency on the space station. Liquid ammonia started spewing out into space. We had to do an emergency spacewalk. And we had to get 2 guys, Chris and Tom, dressed in their spacesuits. The only other person that was available on the ship to help me was Pavel Vinogradov, who was one of your old school cosmonauts, hadn't learned very much English. And I had to get 2 guys dressed in American spacesuits with Pavel Vinogradov's help. And I spent the next several hours directing Pavel while I was getting the other guy dressed on each of the hundreds and hundreds of steps to get them properly suited up with all the connections made, closing up the hatch so they could safely go do the life and death of a spacewalk. And what I realized was, this is why I studied Russian for 20 years. I didn't know it, but I was getting ready for today.
Right, preparation.
I was gaining a skill set. And the times that I lived in Russia for 5 years, the language made me appreciate Russia's history so much better. I understand the country.
Culturally.
To go into Moscow speaking Russian, it's an entirely different experience. And it's a magnificent 1,000-year-old city with art and ballet and everything. And so what kept me motivated was having long-term goals and reasons for doing the things that I was doing, increasing my own skill set along the way, and therefore being able to do and understand and appreciate things at an elevated way that otherwise would have been impossible. And seeing that it all fit together and recognizing that, hey, this may all end tomorrow, or I may never get a chance. But meanwhile, I've kind of filled every minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, and improved my own understanding of
Did
things.
you have every minute have 60 seconds?
Oh, yeah.
When you made a wrong choice, how did you recognize it as a wrong choice and course correct back to the North Star?
My philosophy has always been, when someone's willing to teach you something, especially for free, take them up on it. Yeah. If you run into an expert about something that you don't understand, and they're willing to take 5 minutes and teach you this thing, then gosh, learn that thing. Right. And you never know whether it's learning Russian language or anything else. Put all those things inside yourself and keep as many of them as you can, because that increased skill set is just like this toolbox that you can yank out a tool that you'd forgotten you even had in there, but that is going to help you conduct life in a better way. So I think when you conduct life that way, you end up with far fewer regrets, because you've got a bunch of long-term goals, you're increasing your skill set, and you don't know for sure if most of the stuff that I trained to do didn't happen because we're training for emergencies. Right. I never had a fire on a space station, fortunately. I was ready if it happened, but I didn't consider that training wasted.
Right. And were you ready in the sense that you could sit here now, even today, and visualize a fire happening? Visualize what you would do, how you would take leadership of the team? What is it, that kind of preparation where you're literally not only just anticipating and going through the motions of learning what to do, but is it visualization also? Have you lived a fire on the space station in your mind?
Oh, multiple times. In our simulator on the ground, we would actually fill the simulator with smoke, and all the fire alarms would go off. Or we had a simulator over in Russia. The simulator was inside a vacuum chamber, this enormous vacuum chamber. And your first indication of pressure dropping of a hole punched in the wall of your spaceship was that the pressure actually started dropping in the room. And you would feel your ears start to pop, and then the alarms would start to go off, and then you had to react properly. Right. Now, the fine-tuning of your immediate reactions and the stuff you did right away, those you have to refresh every few months. But the fundamental capacity to deal with stuff going wrong, that changes who you are. Yeah. And that then bleeds over into how you conduct the rest of your life as well. So yeah, I think part of the reason that I never felt any of the stuff that I was doing was wasted time is it was not just allowing me to become better at the specific skill set needed to be a better astronaut, but it was also giving me an enhanced skill set to deal with everything else that happens in my life.
I mean, there's so many lessons for founders to learn in this conversation, but most definitely one of them is thinking about what can go wrong and living that problem and rehearsing what you do in that problem.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, realism of simulation is so incredibly important. And when I say realism...
We can't just go for a beer and take a break.
Well,
right.
Like now, you and I could sit down and we could go through a space station fire. And we could talk about the procedures. But then if we got the actual books out that are in English and Russian, and we went through them, and we worked every single step, that would increase the reality of it. If we were inside a simulation of a space station, and then we got the books, that would improve it. And then if we were inside a simulation of a space station, wearing some sort of spacesuit, holding those checklists, and the space station was filling with smoke. Then it's hard to even convince yourself that the fire isn't happening. And you can no longer just sort of go, this is what I do next. That's not a simulation. Right. What you do next? No, do it next. Yeah. Where you're actually taking the actions. You want to make your simulations so realistic that you can actually change your habit patterns and change your instinctive reactions and have your whole team feel much less fear coming into the potential risk of that situation, because they know how everybody's going to react and everybody knows what their tasks need to be. And you can do that for anything within your business. What are we going to do when this happens? Let's take 10 minutes and simulate it as realistically as we possibly can.
As a founder, Chris, I've had several failures. Yeah. I've had things really go wrong. 3 businesses I started were complete zeros. So for me, these were, life-altering events, disastrous events. Coping with those, managing through them, getting to the other side of them is a significant challenge for founders. What's your advice?
At the start of February 2003, a space shuttle was coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. And because of bad decision making by the leadership of NASA, that vehicle came apart and killed everybody on board. That was Columbia. And to some degree, everybody's guilty. So many people in NASA, self included, had a small part of building the structure that allowed us to have Columbia back through the atmosphere with a known problem that would cause it to disintegrate and kill everybody on board, friends of mine. So what do you do when you have a catastrophic event that in our case has led to the loss of life and the loss of a vehicle? What do you do next? What do you do then? So I think first, you've got to deal with the people and the grieving and the natural and necessary reactions to a horrific event. You've got to allow that whole process to happen. You've got to take care of the people. You know, what is it going to mean for them emotionally and spiritually and financially? And so that has to happen in the short term. But then you have to say, do we want to do this again? You know, do we have a chance of recovering from this horrible thing that happened? Or should we just say, that's it. We're never going to fly in space again because we blew it this time. Yeah. So how devoted and committed are you to purpose? And how much do you believe that even though you got it seriously wrong this time, you still can get it right? And then once you've got through those two things, then you have to dig way into what happened. Why did this go wrong this time? We thought we knew what we were doing. We thought we were bulletproof. We thought we were the smart people. Yeah. And so
and many successful missions had happened.
Oh, yeah, and we got away with it. Yeah. That's the problem. There's a difference between succeeding and getting away with it. Mm-hmm. And most people know that difference, but they don't want to admit it, you know. But we'd gotten away with it. But this time we got caught, and we didn't want to admit that we were getting caught. So once we had truly, really dug through what all of the causes were, now, since we decided, yes, this is worth reattacking and we're going to try and succeed again, now you have to change, and you have to make a lot of changes. Some of the changes are mechanical, right? We need to make the tanks better. We need to have better inspection techniques. We have repair techniques. Yeah.
Physical
but
changes,
a lot of them are personnel and management changes. How is it that we deal with the symptoms that led up to the problem? Yeah. How is it that we give people the authority in order to make the right decision and have enough people with authority to recognize that things are going the way that are bad and stop this process from happening again? And how do you institutionalize that into how you function as an organization so that recognizing that this will happen again, something like it, nothing's perfect, things go wrong, but how can we not make it go wrong today, or this month, or for the next 3 years, or for the remainder of the space shuttle program? How can we fly out the remainder of the whole space shuttle program for the next decade and never hurt another person or hurt another vehicle? And that's what we did. Because of that recognition of how you're going to deal with failure, reassertion of purpose, digging into the details, changing the structure, giving everybody a new skill set, and then recommitting to success.
But Chris, how did it not shake your confidence, right? This is an epic disaster, right? Something really wrong. For me, when I had failures as a founder, there was no loss of life, right? I lost money and I lost my time. Yeah. This is an order of magnitude beyond. How did it not shake your confidence?
It hugely shook my confidence. Okay. But it didn't destroy my confidence. You should have your confidence shaken. If you are completely confident, then you're overconfident. You know, watch two tennis players come out to play, and watch the one who's scrappy and has been working so super hard, and the other one's like, I got this one in the bag. You know, they're playing a very different game. And you should have your confidence shaken, because that's one of the main reasons you're going to try and get better at what you're doing, the main reason you're going to improve. And in a case like this, which is as egregious as it can be, you know, as horrible and regrettable a situation where 7 friends died and we lost a space shuttle, we did have the option of just having our confidence destroyed and giving up. The way I did it was I was good friends with a commander, Rick Husband. And as I was going over to his wife's house to do what I could to help, I flipped it around and said, what if it had been me that had been killed? What if it had been me that had borne the brunt of this? And it was Rick now coming over to my wife's house.
Yeah.
What would I want Rick and everybody else to be doing?
Yeah.
Would I want them all to quit? Would I want them all to say, oh, we've lost all our confidence and we can never do this again? Because that would have then completely emptied the value of our failure.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And
Our
almost
failure would have been pointless.
And the value of their death is eroded to nothing.
It would have been all for naught.
Right.
Instead, if you can say, this was a horrible thing, we cannot let this happen again.
Yeah.
This has shaken everything, but now we need to go through the whole process so that we can execute this necessary and desirable and an amazing thing that we're doing, but we have to do it better. And that means all of the steps that you got to take so that at some point, maybe 2 years from now in the space shuttle's case, or 2.5, we're going to all go down to the Kennedy Space Center and we're going to watch one of these magnificent things leave Earth successfully, execute an entire mission, and come safely back down to land with everybody on board again. And we will know in our hearts that we did it this way because we improved everything. We made space flight forever better as a result of the sacrifices of the failure that happened. And that applies to something as globally visible as a space shuttle, but it applies to the small events in your own life, and it applies to any business that you're trying to start.
Chris, you and I are both keen on longevity, and obviously you're in fantastic shape already.
I'm
you
not as good a shape as you, Tony, but all right, I try.
What are the things that you do that keep Chris Hadfield having the kind of mental acuity, energy, and focus and capacity to do so many things that you're doing?
Yeah, I try and keep it simple. I try and be patient and kind with myself. I give myself objectives. Like if you don't have specific things you're trying to accomplish that demand of yourself, then why bother getting in shape? Why bother living a long time? There's a lot of stuff I really want to get done, stuff that is important to me, stuff I'm curious about. And so it's going to take time to do all those things. And so I want to be really mentally alert and physically capable so I can do as many of those things as possible. So purpose is really important to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm never going to find the day-to-day motivation. Like I want to fly a complicated airplane and fly it really well in bad weather. The number of backup steps that have to happen in order for me to be able to perform then drives me to stay in shape and to stay sharp and to stay mentally active and to have my eyes and my hands and everything working really well. So to me, purpose is really important. Then I think it's really important to have a sustainable pattern that is going to allow you to do those things for as long as possible.
Yeah.
So what should I, once in a while, you're going to eat stuff you shouldn't eat. Once in a while, you're going to have a day you shouldn't have. But for the vast majority of time, what should I eat? And how much exercise should I get on a regular basis? How do I build my life around those things? And how could I do the little things that are easy? Like before every shower, do 20 push-ups. Just do it. And if you got bad shoulders, then do 100 sit-ups or 100 jumping jacks or something. But it's so simple. Before every shower, I just don't let myself have a shower until I've done 20 push-ups. When I'm drying myself off afterwards, I stand on one foot. Your balance is not always going to be as good as it is right now. And so work on it. Always be working on your balance. Walk if you have the opportunity. Don't take the transportation. Ride. Take all the little chances to keep your body in shape. Challenge your body on a regular basis. Go for a run, lift a bunch of weights, do something that really pushes your musculature and your skeleton and your cardiovascular system. But you've also got to live your life. And then maybe two other things. And that is look at yourself naked in the mirror. No one else is looking.
That's an interesting one.
No one else is looking. And it's your body.
Yeah.
Compare your mental image to the reality of what your body is. No one has a perfect body.
Right.
I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe
there
was
day.
a time
Maybe
that he was
close.
Mr.
Yeah, close.
Universe, but he's not Mr. Universe now. And he wasn't all the time. So look at yourself in the mirror, both physically and mentally, and recognize that you're imperfect, but The stuff that you're doing is trying to optimize, to make things better. It's going to take time, and forgive yourself, but recognize that you're always a work in progress. And then I think the last thing is be around people that you aspire to be. Try and not surround yourself by the people that you don't want to be. Who is it that I would really like? I really respect this person.
Yeah.
So try and be around people like that, and try and understand how it is that they're conducting their lives, so that you could maybe copy some of those ideas, so that you can then be a steady improvement of yourself to accomplish the things that are important to you. So when you finally get to that last day and you're looking back and going, man, I sure didn't conduct life perfectly, but I really am proud of the effort I made and the accomplishments and the things that mattered to me that I got done. And maybe some of those things nobody else cares about at all, probably, but they were important to me. So you can look back and feel satisfaction that you really joyfully and deliberately optimized yourself to conduct the life that you dreamed about.
Chris, you've had a positive impact on millions of people. You've been inspirational for tens of millions of people. Of those, all the things you've done and accomplished, what is the one that you, Chris, are most proud of and most happy about?
I've had some magnificent moments in my life, to be outside on a spacewalk, going through the world's aurora and having the billowing energy fields glowing red and green pouring around my body as I'm going through the southern lights of the world. I've had lots of publicly visible, exciting things, but I wasn't doing them to impress other people. I was doing them because I thought they were interesting and challenging. I thought they were worthwhile. I thought they were pushing back the edge of human capability, and I thought they were kind of pushing me to the limits of what I'm capable of doing. And oddly enough, the answer to your question is sort of circular. I am now in the position where complete strangers walk up to me on the street or in an airport and say, hey, Mr. Hadfield, you don't know who I am, but I'm proud of you. And to me, that is like the best moment of my life, where I had no intention at all of impressing this person. I don't know who they are, but the way that I have chosen to conduct my life is such that it has influenced the decision-making of somebody else. It has maybe inspired them, and it has instigated them to walk up to me as a complete stranger and just express the impact that I've had on their life. And it's just such a marvelous compliment and tremendous feeling of satisfaction.
I'm sure.
Of the way that I'm conducting life is not just valuable to me, and it's not just fun and satisfying to me, but it has value for other people. To me, that is the measure of which perhaps I'm most satisfied.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Trailblaze. Would love to hear from you. Tweet me or comment on LinkedIn or Instagram and share what you took away from this episode. This show was produced by Creator Club Studios. You can start creating today at creatorclubstudios.com.